Okay, back with another video. All right, just want to touch on a lot of the important points that that kind of make this stuff work. Okay, and there's no more important point than the concept of uncertainty. Now, if you get into the material of True Master, you'll notice in Volume 1, Self to Self, it's sticking more to the experiential. It's more in line with that type of verbiage, with that type of thought process. In Volume 3, if you read Volume 3, it talks about language of scientists and electrical engineers, how they speak about this stuff and their terminology. So if you want to look something up, that will be in volume 3. And if you compare volume 1 and volume 3, you'll see what I'm talking about, when I talk about this stuff. Okay, so when we talk about uncertainty, right? Uncertainty is the foundation of both the experiential that I always reference and true master. The foundation is uncertainty. So just as a principle is the birthplace and final destination of all phenomena, principles exist within a soup of uncertainty, right? Uncertainty is possibility, and possibility is the creator. Okay, so that's straight up experiential verbiage right there. All right. So no divination system can work without uncertainty. Not knowing, or what is called the mysteries, notice they have a mystery system in Egypt, is what gives you access to information contained within the subconscious mind. So if uncertainty was a number, it would be the number 0. And any of us familiar with arithmetic knows zero is technically not considered a number. If it was a shape, it would be the circle, right? Circles stand for infinity, or the unformed. You know what I mean? The square is the informed. All shapes in geometry come from the circle, right? So it's the foundation or the source of all your geometric shapes being the circle. All right. In Egyptian mystery system, it would be the Ogdod, or it would be characterized as what's called the Ogdod. For anybody who's familiar with the Egyptian mystery system and all that, it would tie into conceptually tie into or parallel with the Ogdod or the primordial 8. So when we got the primordial 8, that's 4 pairs of manifest and unmanifest attributes of uncertainty. So you got Amun, Amunet, the hidden, Kik, Kiket, darkness, he had infinite time, Nun, Nunet, the primordial abyss. So all of these things are characteristics or adjectives that basically talk about uncertainty and everything. You know what I mean? In other volumes, you'll get other language like, the null point, the realm of principles. That's what we call it in True Master. But what it's talking about is uncertainty. All your principles reside within what's referred to in this literature as uncertainty. So then you have, we've gone over the various members of the Ogdod. So those are 8 primordial deities that are emblematic of 8 aspects of infinity, or for our purposes in this literature, uncertainty. The circle is emblematic of infinity, like we were saying earlier. Then you have the Enad. Enad means the company of 9. This is all Egyptian stuff for all my Kemetic people. The number 1 is emblematic of the principle. So so when we get into 0 is emblematic of uncertainty. That's a feminine characteristic. That's a feminine principle. So if we're talking about, we can dress it up in all these nice language, the divine womb and the cosmic womb, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, the 0 is the feminine principle because it gives birth to all the other principles. So when we get to the number 1, that will be the father. You see what I'm saying? That's the polarization of some quality of energy. So when we get into that, what's the story that talks about this? Because we're talking about arithmetic. It's basic math. but it's qualitative math, not quantitative math. So when you get into the number one, the story that talks about this is the Enad. All of this, if you look up the Shabaka Stone, Memphite theology, Heliopolis, Enad, all of that'll come up, and you're gonna see 9 deities emblematic of the numbers 1 through 9. So when you have the Enad, or the company of 9, the number 1 is emblematic of the principle, whatever that principle may be, like how we're talking about in True Master and from the experiential literature. That's emblematic of the deity Atum. Atum is emblematic of the number 1. And the story, if anybody's familiar with the so-called mythology of it, the story of Atum is self-created, and he rises out of the primordial mound, or the primordial abyss. So the principle would be rising out of the primordial abyss of uncertainty. You see kind of how this flows together. So, the primordial mound, the primordial abyss, however you style it. Okay, so all of what we're talking about, this is called arithmetic in its qualitative form, outside of just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 1 plus 1 is 2, and all that good stuff like that. The progression from 1 to 9 are various phases that the energy goes through until it reaches fulfillment at 9. Okay, 1 through 9 on the circle model, like how we gave before, would be from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. From what we're calling horizon to zenith, or more specifically what the experiential calls from horizon to zenith. Okay, so this whole progression from the number 1 to the number 9, this is from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. If we're looking at a clock, this 45 degree, this 90 degree arc, right? Okay, this is the same concept as the Kabbalistic tree of life, right? In this case, Kether would be number 1, and Malkuth would be fulfillment, right? So this is the same thing. I know everybody, if you Google Kabbalistic tree of life, everybody knows, Kabbalah's become more popular, Madonna's in the Kabbalah and all this stuff like that. But there's an actual structure that comes out of that they call the Kabbalistic tree of life, and it has 10 Sephiroth on it. But for all my Afrocentric people, we know that that model comes out of a carving on the temple of Kom Ombo in Egypt and everything like that. And that's this what I'm talking about, this 1 through 9 progression or whatever. So let's see. This takes it out of such an abstract place, because when you talk about the tree of life, you talk about, okay, this progression of existence from Kether to Malkuth, or from the numbers 1 through 10 or whatever case may be, and that's an abstract concept. You may ask, okay, well, what does that look like in a real life situation, or how can I use that? That sounds deep, mystical, and all that, but how do I use that? Okay, this takes it out of such an abstract place when we overlay the circle chart. So the circle chart, for all intents and purposes, this is going to be our practical overlay for this. This is going to make this mystical sounding stuff be practical. Okay, so this takes it out of an abstract place when we overlay the circle chart with the significant experience at zenith. So at 12 o'clock, oh man, why I can't get right, or how can I duplicate success, or how can I make an impact in this way? When was the last time that I made such an impact, or what have you? Let me take those situations or whatever, find the theme, and let me see what I'm doing right so I can decode the information. The important experience at noon. Okay, now we see the unfolding of reality, how it is conceptualized in the tree of life. So the same way it unfolds on the clock model, that's the same way that it unfolds on the tree of life. It's just a downward progression. So where we would have noon on the clock model, we would have Malkuth on the tree of life model. They would use the number 10. Okay, so when we get into the number 2 on the progression, it's the concept of multiplicity, or the concept of a pattern. Everything must repeat, because humans are creatures of habit, and we learn via repetition. The circle being the master principle. A cycle is implied. If things didn't repeat, we couldn't learn, because again, humans are creatures of habit. Humans, we learn through repetition. We talk about such things as muscle memory and all that. So that's the number 0, the number 1, and the number 2. So the numbers, so again, the number 0 is where all the other numbers come from. The number 1 is whatever type of energy that's coming out of that specifically. So if lollipops and rainbows and all that come out of 0, then 1 would be the lollipop. You see what I'm saying? 2 would be the lollipop factory that makes the lollipops, because we got multiple lollipops. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so by the time we get to 3, that's balance. 4 is integrity. 5 is creative expansion. 6 is harmony. 7 is purpose. 8 is power. 9 is fulfillment. And those are the distinctions that's given by from the experiential. So this is the progression from principle to physical phenomenon, from a world war to a simple phone call, and all physical phenomena. This is its progression through symbols, patterns, and principles. So this is kind of what we mean. And I want to end this video with a quote from Brother Naju. I know he hate when I call him Greg, so I gotta switch that up. The Brother Naju, the creator of the Xperiential. I'll give a quote from him. In the body, it is composed of a community of trillions of cells. In each cell, there is DNA that gives us information about the entire body. In the same way, your life is composed of trillions of moments, and in each moment is the DNA of the moment that gives you information about your entire life. Symbols, patterns, and principles is the DNA of the moment. So I just want to end with that. Thank y'all for listening.